Hey there, and welcome to the Home Studio Rescue here on YouTube. My name is Chris, and for this video today, I'm going to be showing you some bass tricks. We've already been through mixing the drums here. We've added EQ. We've got some triggers going. We've got some crushed drums, and I haven't really touched much of this mix outside of I threw some EQ and a little distortion on some guitar and some tape saturation. But I figured normally, so I mix the drums, I get them sounding pretty good. This is probably about where I go, and then I start getting the other stuff like the bass and the guitars and trying to get those to sit well in the mix. And so for this video, I'm just going to throw some bass tricks at you. So we'll make a bass group. Also, we're going to make this a capital B because that bothers me. And so let's see. So we're going to get active playlists. We're going to do group assignments. And we're going to do, I think we'll do 3 duplicates. So that's a lot of tracks. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to go bass low. We're going to do bass high. We're going to do bass distort. And then we're going to bus all of these together. We're going to make a bass bus. And we're going to make it mono. So all those tracks are going to go to my bass bus. And then we're going to make sure that we put this to our mix bus just by the output right there. And there we go. And so we're going to go through these here. And let's see. So we'll just hear what bass we have. Now, I think for this song, my friend that I'm mixing the song for, my client, he informed me that the bass player did not change his strings or anything, so that's kind of, I guess I will say it now. Bass players, when you're going to record music, it definitely helps to have new strings on your bass. Otherwise, they just kind of become dull, and there's not much punch to them. So I have mixed this song already, so this is just for the tutorial and everything, but do your mix guy, do your engineer a favor and put on some new bass strings. That's a good idea. I'm a bass player, and it makes such a huge difference. So at any rate, this is the bass with old strings on it. It's not too bad, but to get that to poke through the mix with these drums I've put in, yeah, I don't know. It shouldn't be too bad, but so we've got some tricks to do here. So first thing, this is one I got from Produce Like a Pro. I saw him do this trick. I'll give you his version of it, kinda. And let's see here. So I'm going to grab a 7-band EQ, and this is my low-end track. So I'm just going to pull this down to like 200 hertz. Let's get rid of these or bring them down. So you're just getting the low end. And what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to grab a stock Pro Tools compressor. And I'm going to compress the snot out of it. I'll leave it on the attack and release setting. Get some compression going. That's a lot of compression. I'm going to try to level match it. And then I'm going to option click and do it all over again. Maybe I'll put this one to 3-1. Just make sure here's my input. Here's how much is coming out. It is compressing it. And then over here, I'll give this a limiter setting. And so this trick is really to get a nice defined low end. Like some bass players are inconsistent, and so this is going to kind of fatten it up. And Yeah, so here's what. So you should be able to hear. That's adding a nice low end to it. Now, this is another. Both of these, the low end trick and the high end trick, are produced like a pro. That Warren guy, shout out to him. Let's see. So I'm just going to drag the 7-band over, and I'm going to take off the low pass filter, and I'm going to put the high pass filter on till about 200 hertz, and I'm going to make it pretty steep. And so and I'm just going to option click over the compressors. So that's just kind of bringing out the punch. Also, I can kind of find the areas I want to highlight. And so that's what the bass low and the bass high, and then we'll add the original in. And for me, I'm feeling like I'm gonna take out some of the low end of the original. This is a really cool EQ. I've just started using it, so every time I pull it up, I talk about it, but you can kind of just hear exactly what you're cutting. And I'm not going to do too much with this bass right now. We'll put in the other tracks just to hear what we're getting. So, taking out the high and the low. I mean, I'm also adding gain, so. If we just bring them. I mean, at this point, I'm just kind of setting the level. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a bass distortion track. And let's see here. We're going to find a distortion. I've become a big fan of this Fatterator or whatever it's called. I just dig it. It's got the color thing is pretty cool. Kind of thin that out. Get some fuzz. That's a pretty cool plugin. We'll also audition another one. For a long time, this Massey plugin, the THC, it's I think it stands for Total Harmonic Compression. This thing's pretty BA. You can just kind of go nuts with it. And it's not seeming to work very well. But there's so many of these distortion plugins, and they're all pretty cool. You can always go for the decapitator as well. And I like to use the effects rack with it just because it's got a mix control and an output, and so also just hold on to your butts. Try to find which style. Which style we're looking for. So I kind of like punish at this point just because we're trying to get some nastiness. We might as well have the other tracks on just to... And so you just, this is a taste thing, you know, you just kind of gotta blend it. That fuzz is crazy. So that's got some crunch to it. I might be going overboard, but that's one of those things. There we go. I do want some more low end. Still not really happy with the distortion. Let's get rid of this guy. Maybe we'll try this. I don't know why they don't have the labels here anymore after the new Catalina update, but this is the output. This is the mix. I don't know. If you guys know how to see this stuff, that would be wonderful, but I got it memorized. But yeah, I feel like this is pretty silly. And this is part of the thing too. I do this stuff in solo just so you guys can kind of hear it, but really you need to be checking this stuff in the track. You know, you just can't slap a distortion on the bass, and it might sound awesome by itself, but once you get it in the mix, you know, it might not work. So I haven't really found a distortion I like. You know, this is, maybe we'll just try the good old air distortion, see what that does. Sometimes you just gotta set things to stun and see what it sounds like, which that sounds like doo-doo, so I'm not really having a lot of luck. The other thing, these transformer plugins by Kush Audio, it's a nice little subscription. These things are pretty BA as well. Let's see. I'll get that going. There's one that's pretty crunchy. I think it's this A right here. But yeah, for this bass, the distortion's just kind of making things worse. The other thing is, I'd probably cut off some of the low end. Ooh, we could try the lo-fi. Can't really go wrong with lo-fi. That's pretty cool. I want more. Definitely have to get rid of some low end. I mean, so this saturation, so this is kind of a high end distortion, and this is more the low fuzz. So maybe I'm gonna back some of that off, but I'm gonna start with a I'm gonna get some EQ going. And here again, let's listen. That's starting to get there. I'm just trying to get the bass to poke through. And yeah, so I'm just trying to get the bass to poke through. And I mean, you don't even really need to hear the saturation. Maybe we'll try. I'm liking the bass distortion a little more than this high-end stuff. The other thing, a little more. The bass seems like it's a little bit out of tune as well. That's not helping. Now, the other thing I like to do is I will throw a compressor on the bass bus. And we're going to get rid of all that, and we're going to find the Monster. Now, this is a trick I read from Greg Wells. You put it's like a medium attack right about there, and then you can mess with this is about how much it's a high pass filter to the compressor, so it's just how much low end is going to go in. You can kind of pick your spots, and so I just kind of play with that. And I mean, this thing is crushing it. You can see there's 7 dB of gain reduction. The other thing we need to see is what our level looks like over here. So we don't want to just fool ourselves by making everything louder. And I mean, I haven't really even balanced in the bass with the drums, so we should hear that. Get that compressor going. We can also, so we can work with the mix knob here to dial in what we want. That's sounding more natural. And now let's see what our level looks like. It's actually louder without the compressor. It's taken off a little bit of gain. It's definitely helping. I like the compression. So this is definitely more of a heavy rock, kind of almost metalish song. I'll do a video on bass when it's a little bit cleaner. But so far I think that's working. Let's just make sure. I need to have my room stuff on. Ooh. So I feel like we're, getting the bass sound here. If we kill all of our little fun toys here, I mean, all I have on this one is, this is the original bass. All I have really going is EQ. I knew that I'm going to put this on at the end, and I'm going to be adding some low end there. And this is something too that you just kind of have to mess with. It's also good to have a reference track of something similar to see where the bass is. Yeah, it's still a little too much, but in context, you can just bring it down some. I'm just trying to get a little bit of growl going. Also, we can throw an EQ in here at the end and see what we get. And sometimes it's not that bad to do a high pass filter. You can at least, or a low pass, you can at least try it. In my experience with high pass filtering, the bass is, when you do it against the kick drum, which, you need those two to interact very well. So we're just going to bring up the kick drum. So So we're gonna mess with the high pass filter. It just kind of tightens up the low end. And so we can see there's kind of a buildup here around, I guess, between 50 to 200 hertz on the bass. So we could go in and bust the drums together or the kick drum into a mono track and just kind of carve out a little hole so it just sits better. But here's without the EQ. Here's with it. We'll put it in context of the mix. Might be doing a little too much. And so for me though, with the bass, especially something like this, I mean, it's just experimental. I mean, I've got some tricks and some things I can throw in it to make it get it closer. You know, honestly, bass is one of those things I struggle with. Getting the bass to be in the right spot in the mix, you know. I've learned my room pretty well, so I kind of know what's going on, and I can put it pretty confidently in a song and not take it out to the car and it just blow out the speakers. But bass is difficult. Getting it to sit right in the mix, bass guitar especially, you know, especially when you don't have your new strings, if it doesn't sound like it needs to when it's being recorded, it's going to be tough. So, you know, these are just some tricks. Like right now, I think the EQ is helping it poke through a little bit more, but these are just some tricks you can throw at it and kind of, and I mean, obviously you don't have to use a stock compressor or EQs, or you can do whatever you want. I mean, like with the distortion, it took me 3 or 4 plugins to find something I kind of liked that worked for this song. So, you know, you have to mess with this stuff, you know. Mixing is never easy. I mean, sometimes you might get a song that's recorded very well, and really your job is just not to mess it up. You're trying to, you want to bring out the best parts of things, and you want to add polish and sparkle and punch and all that stuff. But with something like bass, for me, it's something I have to wrestle with. And even with these tricks and whatnot, they help. And sometimes, you know, I don't have 4 bass tracks. Sometimes I just do 1, and, you know, or I have 2. I'll have a low end trick, you know, and it just works. So there's a lot more to it than what I've shown you today. And I kind of gave you a glimpse of the struggle of trying to get your bass to be what it needs to be. And so I hope this helped, and if you have any techniques that you like to use for bass, for the bass low, normally, like, this is just one of those things you can do with stock plugins, but what I normally do is I will slap the R bass on there, and that is just, this plugin basically does what I did with the EQ. I'll just go for the big setting here. Big bottom, I love this setting on it. That immediately feels better to me. There's already more low end, and I mean, this is a cool trick, but this plugin here, it's about $30. Usually you can find it for sale. This thing is priceless. Like, you know, every couple of years I got to pay for a Waves update, which is like $240. And I mean, it's not just all of the R plugins. This, R Vox, the Renaissance compressor, the R-Verb, all of these plugins are great. I just love them. And this thing is just, you know, for me, it just immediately made the bass punch out. I feel like that's a much better start than what we had. that's what we had. And there you go. So I think we got a pretty good start, but these are some of the tricks, and these are the things, this is what I go through when I mix a song. Sometimes it just happens quickly and I can just go through and mix a song in 2 or 3 hours. And, I've got a really good foundation to start doing mix corrections and all that stuff. But with bass and drums, it's like you got to wrestle with the stuff sometimes. There's just no way around it. So thank you guys for watching, and I make videos like this. They are posted every Monday and Friday at 7 a.m. If you guys have any bass tricks or any videos, you can shoot a link in the comments. I'd love to watch them. I'm always looking for new tricks, and I hope these helped. And I guess I'll give a shout out to Produce Like a Pro and the Recording Revolution. A lot of the stuff I'm teaching here is just kind of rehashing some of the stuff I've seen over the years. So if you guys know any other videos, I'd love to watch them. So leave a comment, like and subscribe, hit that little bell, and I'll see you on the next one.